Okay, so it's telling me that we're live, and I will just go into my group and check that that is true. Oh gosh, people asking, are we live yet? That's good. A little bit of
anticipation.
Yes, we are live. Hooray!
Yay!
Great. Okay, let me make you full screen. Fabulous. Okay. So hello. Hello,
Hi.
Rachel, and hello, women, beautiful women in the sisterhood group. Yeah. So today, this series of conversations, really, I've got the pleasure of chatting to Rachel Blackman, who I love deeply. And Rachel is let me get this right. So she's a somatic educator and she helps coaches work with the body. And she does that through the somatic school. We met through the embodied facilitator course about 3 years ago now. Only 3 years ago. That's crazy.
Yeah. Wow.
And she's also a mentor and yeah, she's a theatre maker, an actor, Feldenkrais teacher, training to be a trauma therapist, shamanic magician, and just beautiful, soulful being who we were just having a very quick conversation before this, weren't we? And I feel like, God, we could talk about this stuff for hours and hours. And I feel like I'm always enriched by a conversation with you, and it feels so like generative, and that we bring so much. Like the compost just gets richer and richer. And yeah, I'd also say you're a rest advocate, like a love affair with the yin, which is where my work starts as well. And and Rachel's a guest teacher on my Fearless Female Entrepreneur course. So she's going to be leading a session all about coming into ourselves and into our rich inner landscape and trusting that as the sort of fertile ground of what we offer then in the world. So hopefully we're going to touch on themes around that, around rest, and around, like, you know, so Rachel is also a fearless female entrepreneur herself, and like lessons from the journey, you know, and what it is, how do we create a soulful business that is beautiful, that is sustainable for ourselves, and that is enriching to the world, you know, and how do we stick to our values in that, and all of that good stuff. So yeah, hopefully it'll be a rich conversation. Well, it will be a rich conversation, and I hope you enjoy it. And feel free, if you have any questions, to pop them in the chat, and I'll try and keep an eye on that as well. So yeah.
Oh, that's lovely. What a lovely introduction, Erica. I feel similarly, like we're creating fertile territory when we talk, and I love that about sharing spaces with women on these themes. It feels like really important work.
Yeah.
So thanks for inviting me in.
Yeah, and I think also what we should say as well, you and I and other women that we're working with, I think we're trying to do something quite radical, actually, which is we're trying to create businesses that break a model, that actually don't rely on a sort of yang approach or a sort of very masculine approach. It's like, and that's a newly creating thing. Like we spoke on Tuesday, didn't we, around this is a new thing for women, actually. And we're at a point where we can begin to reimagine what that might look like. And I find I'm excited by that, because I see you doing it, and I see some of the other women that I'm working with doing it. And that's also what I want to support other women to do. So that we can maybe imagine business differently than we've been presented with it or something.
Yeah, well, I think the models that we've inherited are often unsustainable on so many levels, certainly from a nervous system perspective, right? From a place of, am I being sustainable? The idea that productivity is inherently good always, that equals optimum, I think is an interesting construct that I've certainly inherited from my education growing up. And I'm really excited about the possibility that women bringing businesses that have a tending or a care-based orientation can do so in a way that is self-sustainable and nourishing. That feels like a countercultural choice. And I feel like we're in this amazing position. We talked on Tuesday, didn't we, Erica, about we're in this rare position that our mothers weren't in and our grandmothers weren't in, where we can begin to make these choices for ourselves with much more freedom than we've ever been able to before. But we're breaking the genetic inheritance, aren't we?
We are, and we're also breaking the sort of I don't know, patriarchal or whatever you want to call it, rules as well. So there's a sort of the generational conditioning, and then there's sort of business rules or something. It's like how the way in which we're taught to be successful, or the way we're taught we need to be in order to be successful. And I think that's where the fearlessness comes in. Is the fearlessness like unhooking from some of those ways and trusting we could do it differently. And
we were talking about the difference between extrinsic motivation and intrinsic motivation. That seems to lead on quite nicely to that.
So my course begins in actually letting go of doing and letting go of being other orientated or being useful. And one of the key things that I teach is how do we move from being useful to being ornamental to being resting? How do we? And the course, the entrepreneurs course, starts there, which feels, I always feel like I need to justify that, like we are gonna, but actually, like we're gonna come into doing something, but actually I think this unlearning and this returning in, back and down is the orientation in sort of an embodied sense, is so like fundamental for anything that comes next. So that's the realm of returning to ourselves, our own lived history, rest, not doing. I led a session in my membership on Tuesday night where I read this beautiful piece by Jeanette Winterson called like Why I Love the Night. It's really beautiful. And then I just got everyone doing nothing. We just hung out in the dark doing nothing, and it was so sacred. People were saying that it felt like we entered this sacred space, like inside of ourselves and together. But I'll hand over to you to speak to more to that. But just the richness of coming back to ourselves and how rare that is actually.
Yeah, so just from my personal experience on that, I've found relatively recently, like I turned 50 next year, and there must be a clerical error. And I've worked out relatively recently that I very quickly exhaust myself in company, and that I need solitude in order to restore. I guess it's like an introvert pattern. And even though I don't maybe present as an introvert, that's definitely an introvert identification or marker or whatever. And part of that is needing to feel like I'm in service to other people when I'm in relationship. And that feels very much like a feminine shadow. So how much time, if I could give myself as much time as I need in order to be ready to come back into the world, how much time might that be? And that's kind of a radical question to ask ourselves, right? Like, how much time, if you could take all the time that you needed and wanted to be with self, what might that be? And for a lot of women, that's kind of such a radical idea that they might not even have considered it. Or self-care looks like going to the gym once a week, or eating healthy food and making sure you get to the gym or something, that's self-time. But what about this other deeper, darker, this inward back and down place where you are able to be with an inner world, be within a landscape? And there's something that Bonnie Bainbridge Cohen talks about there's this series of videos that Emily Conrad from Continuum Movement put together. It's called Moving Legends. And she's interviewing Bonnie Bainbridge Cohen, who founded Body Mind Centering. And she was talking about healing from what would now be diagnosed as chronic fatigue or ME. And she says there's some healing processes that can only take place in the dark and slowly. And it struck me that all life, all biological all organic life begins in the moist darkness.
Yes.
And there's something about like inward, back and down takes me back into a kind of nourishment that I just can't get if I'm in the full light of day, fully exposed. I can't get certain qualities of restoration unless I turn the lights off and go in. And yeah, that was a big light bulb moment for me in my journey.
And maybe we could just touch on the fact that actually that can be a really unknown space for women. So a lot of the time what I'm doing is supporting women, and it can feel quite frightening, actually, the returning to the body, because when we're coming back to ourselves and back to our lived felt experience, like it can be unknown, and it can be, you know, our bodies contain our history, right? They contain our grief and our love and our, you know, so that it can feel a bit frightening, which is why we support it with a container and a lot of safety. And often for women that have learned to stay safe in the world by making sure everything in the field is okay.
Yes.
We've learned to abandon that part of ourselves, or we had to override that part of ourselves a lot. So it became painful to feel it. So we've disconnected from it. That was my experience. And then there was a fear of, what if there's nothing here? What if there's nothing here? And often the women I work with can feel that. And then what opens up is this deep richness. And there's something in this coming back to, because we're coming in, back and down is like coming back to our, like all of our history, you know, all of Anna's, you know, all of our lived experience. And in business and in a soulful business, we want to, that's the richness through which we're going to create, you know. Most of the women that I work with have either, you know, had a real strong experience of healing themselves through a modality, and then they've trained in it themselves, or they're wanting to build a freelance career around something that they're trained in, but they want to do it more ethically or more. And it's like the richness in here informs what we're going to do in the world. And for women, I think it's really important that we take that seriously. Like our life experience, our individual life experience has this deep value, like what we've lived through, everything. And we can talk about multi-talented, multi-threaded kind of businesses, but like that all adds up. And I think that in itself is like not what women are taught, you know?
No, that is your unique fingerprint. That is what you have that nobody else has.
And even if you do exactly the same thing, like if I was to do exactly the same thing as Rachel, it would be so different, because Rachel and I have lived different lives, different experiences with, you know, and that's why that really supports this moving away from any sense of competition or, and then something else I just wanted to pick up on was like that unique fingerprint is discovered in here, like rather than, you know, there are a million business courses, right? There are a million different ways that people are going to tell you that to run a business, and there's lots of advice, and it's all out here. And can we trust ourselves to come back here and imagine what let's talk about visioning, but just also imagine, like, from in here, what is the business that I want to create? How do I want that to feel? How do I want my life to look around this offering? How do you know? And
also, what brings? Sorry to interrupt. Just to riff. Also, what brings me alive? That feeling of what makes the sap rise in me, and unless I'm able to feel this, unless I'm able to connect with this, then I can't know what that is. I'm just getting all my clues from the external reference points. And so coming in, back and down feels like such a potent first step. I'm so glad that that's where you're starting, Erica, with people, because we need to remember to feel ourselves first.
It's Dylan Newcomb. It comes from Dylan Newcomb's work. I should credit him.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's totally Del. Yeah.
Healthy yin before healthy yang. And when I discovered that through his work and yours and other people's, I just felt so like that was the missing piece. Like we want to move from being people pleasers or getting lost out in all of this advice, and we want to step into our own authority and shine our light. And yet, if we don't come in, back and down, it's got no, like you said, like everything beautiful and good comes from the dark, moist earth. There's no, we don't grow from the inside out. We're sort of, there's no substance. And when we do need to, you know, dig in our businesses, and there are challenging times, or someone doesn't like what we're doing, or whatever it is that we're confronted with, this in, back and down is like the root system to support us in that.
I was going to say it's the root system and the mycelium. It's the thing that helps us be planted in purpose.
So in values.
In values and ethics.
Ethics. Yeah.
Yes, purpose isn't just the effect it has in the world. It starts planted deep in me.
Yes.
It's
like a barometer that we can also judge it by, because we're all going to have successes, failures externally. You know, we're going to have programs that sell out, and then we're going to have the same program not do very well, and all of this outside of ourselves is so out of our control. You know, it's so unpredictable. You know, COVID comes, you know, it's so like we can't manage that. And so then we have to have a different barometer for whether we are honoring something, like for whether, so it makes me think of one of your mentees in the session on Tuesday said, I just have to, whatever it is that I'm offering, I need to make sure that it's coming from this internal place, that this intrinsic sense of motivation or offering, or that even if I do something and it's not successful, I have done something more important, which is that I have honored something very important to me, and I've brought that somehow up and into the world. Because
and I would say that that's an evolving process, like an emergent process. It certainly has been for me. I haven't always been able to listen as deeply as I would have liked when I haven't been able to listen in as deeply or as been attuned to maybe what is motivating me when I'm saying yes to work, or, you know, and that's a kind of, as I grow and as I learn and as I make discoveries and attune more sensitively, then I can be clearer and clearer that that's where I'm coming from in my choices.
Yes.
It's not like it suddenly magically happens. It's like a muscle that I grow, right? It's not.
Completely. And you and I have both had experiences, and I definitely have experience and still have them, of saying yes to things and taking opportunities, which sometimes there's a place for, and then later realizing, oh, hang on, maybe that didn't quite align, or something doesn't feel right here. And it's we have to give ourselves lots of permission to
Exactly.
Perfect, or, you know.
To make mistakes and to try something out because it might look good on the surface, and make discoveries that in fact there's something deeper we want to follow. Or I think we need, absolutely, I love that word, permission. Like I want to be giving myself permission to be able to get it wrong, and for it to be emergent, that relationship with the internal.
And it is, isn't it? It is going to constantly deepen into that and find new pockets, and it changes. It's like, so let's go. I'd love to talk to you about, because this is sort of what you're going to lead the masterclass in my group, is around this. And I know lots of women that have taken part in the mini series and are watching at that stage where they don't have a really crystal clear offer. They don't quite know what this. They've got a sense of this thing that they want to create, their business, what they want to do, but they don't perhaps know, I'm going to offer it like this to this particular, you know, they haven't got it crystal clear. And I think that is one of the myths that we come up against, that, you know, and that it can be clear in a way before we begin, or that we can get it perfect on paper.
Yeah.
And I really loved what you said about the visioning actually is like, it's in the dark and it's downwards.
Whereas it is for me. Yeah. And I wonder if that's a yin map compared to a yang map. So for me, where I get my visionary resource from is coming inward, back and down, and in the dark. When I make my theatre, I'm in a dark room for days on end on my own, sort of talking to myself.
Wow. God, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So it's a real resource for me. And the idea of vision being kind of out here doesn't resonate for me. It never really has. And I wonder if that's more of a, I don't know, maybe a Y chromosome pattern. I don't know.
Going up and out.
Yeah, like this. Don't know. But it's not my way. And I also kind of want to open the possibility that it's everyone's to discover as well, the pattern to discover. But there's certainly fertility for me in at least investigating this place as a potentially envisioning place.
And it's by its very nature, like babies, root vegetables, crops. It's like it happens, like you say, in this dark. It's like in this not quite formed place. Yeah,
Yes.
Like
yes,
I've got a sense of something, and it feels like this, and I've got a taste of something, and potentially it's this, and it's got this quality of
hunch
or curiosity, or like, what if I follow, and what if I just play with this for a little while? What might that then want to become as well? Like we're not the sole author of this thing. We're in a co-creating process. And you know, in my own business, for example, it's like I thought I was going to work with women with burnout because that was my history. And I started to explore that, and then it was like, well, why are these women burning out? And then there was this thing around women who are too nice, or like who are people pleasing and putting others first, and that's kind of it. But then in doing that, then there emerges this thing around really wanting to support women to create something in the world, and that being around, and it's like all been around this kind of following, ever evolving kind of experience, and it will keep doing that. Well, we shouldn't be afraid of it, you know.
Yeah, I'd love to drop in a little metaphor there that comes from the natural world that I use in my groups, and it's like that kind of gestational primordial soup of wet in the moist darkness, that place, the compost of that, then kind of grows tiny little sprouts, and just riffing on this idea of I don't know what it is yet, but it's something like something in the region of I'm not sure. And I love the freedom that comes with the image that young things don't know what they are yet. Like that's kind of their function if you look at biology, it's like really young things aren't supposed to know what they are yet. They're still in the discovery of being. They're still in the I don't know-ness, and they're still working out. Like it's enough of a job just to get the head above earth to look towards the sun, you know, and to get the first root down. Like that's a huge amount of creative energy that goes into those first gestational processes. Or if you think about a baby just spending the first year of its life rolling around on the floor trying to work out how to crawl and stand, you know, which takes all of its creative energy.
Yeah, and we shouldn't be ashamed of that. We shouldn't be. No. That's not a failure. That is the first few years of business. Like that is, you know, if not, and ongoingly forever, if we allow it, you know, if we don't think, oh, this is the thing that I do and it works. But actually, we're going to have to, that's going to keep evolving because we keep evolving and we keep, you know, and there's something about that is, we don't quite know what it is yet. And yet here it is. And our job is both to protect it, you know, to have a little, give it some space, like not put too much pressure on it already to know what it is, but also to nurture it. So that might be exploring it in a very safe environment with a group of friends or a focus group, or you know, it might be gently taking those steps to kind of explore what this could be and what it might look like, but with that sense of I don't quite know yet, you know.
Yeah, I love that. And just to borrow another model from nature, the idea of gestation and the idea that in the first trimester you don't open the belly up to look at the baby, right? There's a time it's meant to be private, and there's a reason why we don't tell people the sex of the baby before the first 3 months. You know, there's a rhythm to the creative and the gestational process. Like any generative process goes through a phase where it's not ready to be seen yet, and then maybe it's partially ready to be seen, and then maybe there's a point where full exposure, it's kind of it's like a stable enough form to handle some exposure. And in the exposure, we were talking about this as well, right? That in the exposure, then there's a whole bunch of next level learning that happens in that moment.
And we keep meeting that moment. That we keep, if we're going to keep expanding, growing, you know, reaching more people, shining our light more brightly. We're going to keep reaching that moment of an edge. And I love, actually, I think one thing I would really love, and I haven't said this yet, but I would love to communicate to the women in this group is like, because we're constantly doing this, and because this is so new for women, that of course our development happens in like periods of expansion and then what feels like contraction, because it is exhausting. Like we break through a level and then we just need to rest a little bit, you know? Like again, I think this idea that like it's just like off. I think no, we get to a certain point and then like give ourselves a break and let ourselves be within the comfort zone again, you know? And then another level of taking up a bit more room, and then let's all just let the sympathetic nervous system rest again, you know? And so I think sometimes what I see again in women in business is like there can be this growth and then it feels like it's plateaued or there's a step back. And again, I just like, of course there is, like, of course, that we see that in the cycles of nature, you know, like there's autumn now, like that, and winter has a purpose too, you know? Yeah. So something about that. Like we can't always be growing and expanding.
We can't always be in summer. The myth of eternal growth, right? Like
God, an eternal summer, and how exhausting that is for women.
Oh, and if ever there was a myth worth busting, right? Like if ever there's an idea that is unsustainable, it's the idea that we could be perpetually young and perpetually in summer. That's just let's break that one apart, because it's just causing so much illness and so much just so many problems on a planetary level. And yeah, and we can bring this wisdom into how we're living our lives and how we're doing our work. And I love that about what you're doing, Erica, with your groups. I feel like you're bringing that wisdom, like sowing that wisdom into the territory of the work you're doing.
Yeah, and I know women now who are starting to run their businesses around their menstrual cycles, for example. A woman that I work with, you know, she does certain tasks at certain periods of the month because she knows that her ecosystem supports that, and then there are going to be times where it doesn't. And yeah, just gosh, there are just different ways that we can imagine working and in business.
Another thing that another little myth that and this touches on something we spoke about on Tuesday too, that another little myth I love to just bust is that I need to be a specialist in a single thing.
Oh my God, let's talk about this. Yes.
Yeah. That like the world expects me to no, but who are you really? Like, and part of who I'm expected to be is to be a single thing that can be identified within like the industrial complex or something. And I feel really that feels a little bit, I don't know, political for me, or certainly feminist for me, to be holding the center of who I am, and for all of the things that I do to be in integrity here first. And then I am the vessel through which, or the conduit through which this work happens, and I do lots of different things. Yeah, and I am the center. I'm the. I don't know if it even is about being the center. It's like that inward, back, and down piece. If I'm using this as the root, if I'm able to feel myself and feel in my values and in integrity, then I can trust that the places I'm applying myself in the world have resonance. And are alive in some way for me, you know, and hopefully others.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's so true. That this myth of like, well, what's the one thing that you do, or what are you an expert in, or what are you? Again, I think that it really undervalues a sort of a more feminine approach, which is like that we've followed curiosity in different directions, and that we've picked up things that are, you know, that there are all these different. You know, you're a theatre maker and a Feldenkrais teacher, and there's all these different avenues, and yet there is a Rachel Blackmanness in all of that. That there's something that's being, and each thing is enriched by the other. the theatre is enriched by the Feldenkrais and the mentoring and the, it's again, there's a more ecosystem approach. And I know lots of women here, well, we're just really interesting women. Like I'm just blessed with very interesting women that I appeal to, and I like to think that's because I am an interesting woman and I work with interesting women. But it's like, well, there are just these different threads to our lives, and that we can bring those in to our business or into our work in unusual ways. Like I run grief rituals every so often. I run grief rituals and I host an entrepreneur course. Those two are in a way very, how do they fit together? And yet they do, because it's serving something bigger than either of those. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. And not needing to be defined by existing structures so much in order to feel like I can continue with my creative projects, that they can have their own integrity and their own kind of sovereignty, if you like, whether or not they're inside a system that approves of them.
Yes, and whether or not you have a particular accreditation or a validation from an external authority, or that okay, sometimes we do need to have proper training, but there's also life experience which we can bring into the mix, and we don't have to get another external approval thing to tell us that we can do it. We can trust our own integrity and our own authority in that. Yeah.
And sometimes I have found that getting a qualification feels great.
Yeah.
And kind of enables me to get other stuff under the radar, or to, it's like an umbrella thing that allows me to bring a whole bunch of other stuff I want to do in the world under the umbrella. I don't know if that resonates, because I still do need to be in the world somehow. I'm not really interested in being in a mountaintop or in a retreat center or always a student.
Yeah,
there's a balance there somewhere, I think. For me, I think I can talk about myself, but like with the Feldenkrais qualification, I was sniffing around it for nearly 20 years before I finally went and studied.
Yeah.
And it's like a 4-year training, and I feel like I kind of knew I couldn't get that particular training anywhere else other than just doing that training. So I think sometimes there is an argument for getting a qualification, but it's like, what part of you is being motivated by the need for it, and that question of is it coming from this extrinsically motivated place of, oh God, I'm not enough?
Yes.
Or is it coming from this place of that I can really feel it's bringing something alive in me?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. It's like the motivation behind it and what it's serving, and yeah, all of that which you just said. And and like you said, and maybe this could be the final thing we talk about, and then I'll just check the chat for any questions.
Yeah, lovely.
Just you spoke about, like, because I do want to be in the world. I don't want to be in a retreat center or up a mountaintop, and we want to have businesses that are sustainable financially. We also, in order to allow us to continue to do this work. And I do think entrepreneurship can be a really healing path for women for this very reason, that it asks of us to break free of the generational conditioning that we inherit. It asks us to take ourselves and what we have to offer seriously. It asks us to contribute something to the world rather than be just a consumer. And in order to do that, it needs to be sustainable, like you said, on all these different levels, internally, health-wise, and financially. In order to keep earning abundantly enough that my nervous system is not completely always worried about that then means I can be creative, because creativity comes from being able to be in a more parasympathetic place. And so let's just go and just touch on this thing of like lighthouse, or we talked about
lovely.
Because okay, if we want to share our work with the world, if we want to offer what we've got, and if we want people to find us and pay for our services, we need to get our message and ourselves, or what, seen, and to be visible. And so, we spoke about this lighthouse image, which I've shared with the group last week, but I just wanted to hear you talk a little bit about it. And as you do, I'm just going to check the chat. But something about how that's different is, in a way,
Yeah, so I was really, I really loved your image, Erica, of being a lighthouse, and the idea that your job from a marketing perspective is just to leave wayfinders so that people who need a lighthouse can find you. And that I love that. And just to add to that, I wanted to offer the possibility that your clients, the assumption is that your clients aren't broken, that your clients are resourceful, creative, and whole, which is a coaching agreement, and extends nicely, I think, into an approach to business creation that is not extractive, but rather co-fertilizing.
Yes.
Yeah. And then I think, well, what about this idea of being generous with my presence and with my products? The idea that part of how I'm willing to be seen is from a perspective of generosity, which takes me out of self-consciousness and also out of my head and worrying about whether I'm doing a good enough job. Maybe it isn't even about me.
Yes.
So that anything that helps me come out of inhibiting, crippling self-consciousness, I find to be quite a useful tool. So
Liz spoke to this in the previous interview as well, and I think it is, and it's a deep Buddhist truth. It's there's lots of deep truths in this conversation, but this one in particular, which is when we are self-conscious, it's just so inhibiting. And women have been having to bear an external view all forever. There's like this, that we are looked at, that we are critiqued for the way that we look, and to break loose of that. And again, it's this, from this extrinsic to this intrinsic, and I just all of what this, I want to be generous with my presence, and I want to slip loose of this idea of this extrinsic view and just offer this, what is coming up through me, letting that go out into the world and letting it be a gift. Like, I loved what you said, like that our marketing can be non-extractive, and it can be co-fertilizing. Like, I hope this whole couple of weeks that I've been promoting this course has not just been extractive. It's been that the women taking part in this have been enriched by it. Like, the space has been fertilized by it. That our marketing and our offerings, paid for offerings, can in themselves be just beautiful, and we don't have to make an either or choice there. So something about that, and something about that, all of that is rooted in this in, back, and down place. Like the tree, the fruit that we offer comes from the roots that we find deep back in ourselves, down that space that we explored earlier. And then we just offer the fruit, and generously.
And it won't always work, and then we try a different strategy. And getting robust with failure. I'm sure you touched on that with Liz last week, that part of that it is it's brave making, being willing to risk making mistakes in public, and for them to be just part of learning, and growing tenacity with that, or growing kind of robustness with that, that one failure or two failures or a million failures, that Samuel Beckett quote, fail again, fail better.
Yes. And again, there's a reimagining of failure as well, which again, I think women aren't taught to value, or something, which is like, God, if you honored yourself, if you showed up and you tried something and you honored yourself, then is it even really failure? Yes, okay, there's something bigger going on in all of this for me, than just business or like making a success in business. It's like what I say about this course is, or like, yeah, the entrepreneurial journey, not necessarily just this course, just the entrepreneurial journey. If you take it on and you're engaging it in this soulful way, in this way that it can ripple out into your wider life, and that you're in doing so, you're breaking this conditioning, you're doing something else, then hopefully at the end of it, you'll have a really profitable business. And if you don't, you will have transformed something much more potent and much bigger in your own life, and the ripple effects of that for other women. And you know, there's a journey here that I feel is much more mythic than just let's create successful businesses, which I hope we all do, you know.
Yeah. I love that. I love that deeper cut.
Yeah. Oh, I'm just aware that we've gone for 40 minutes.
Oh my gosh, that was 40 minutes. Wow.
We could keep going. I think I just have to start a podcast or something. But lots of. I'll just go to the chat quickly, and there was someone was saying, "Gosh, menopause feels like again like a new birth. Like there's the rawness, the not knowingness, and I'm loving a lot of you and our colleagues that are touching on menopause or perimenopause as a second kind of." I was going to say second coming then. I didn't quite mean, it wasn't religious. But yeah, that sort of.
That's hilarious. Yeah, nothing to do with Jesus for me so far. But it's really, really interesting gateway menopause. Gosh, so I'm just
gateways. Yeah.
Gosh, where am I? I'm deep perimenopause, I guess. I thought I was maybe menopausal, and then I got a period 2 weeks ago or something. So it's a very strange time, and it feels like it's bringing me back into. I wonder if some of your listeners will resonate with this. It feels like it's bringing me back into some of the insecurities I had around my body when I was a teenager, because there's this rapid change that starts to happen as, you know, collagen leaves, weight gain, blah, 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 but just different hormonal pattern to what I've had since I was 16 or something. So, or however old I was when I first got my period. So yeah, it's a very, very, it feels very much like a rite of passage, and like I'm surfing really different territory in my soma, in my selfhood. And I'm really glad that finally I'm living in a generation where we can have really casual, relaxed conversations about it, and there's not all this stigma. But I would love us to think of another word for it, because it's just such a horrible word, menopause. It's just what does that even mean? Like it means end of periods, right? But I think there's other cultures that have had healthier relationships with it than our Western medicalization of the. And sort of any symptom around the age 50 gets lumped into perimenopause. And yeah, I don't know.
It's been demonized so much, you know, just the reason it's been demonized so much is because it is a potent threshold for women coming into their power. And well, that's frightening to people that have got a vested interest in power. So I think it's just, if we can reframe it, like actually it is a time when women are really coming into their fullness and abundance, and sort of, and they just don't give a shit so much, and they're like ready, and they've got all this wisdom, and they're free of some other commitments that previously would have limited what they were available to. You know, that is a very good time for women if we take off some of the labels or the ideas that it's not, I think, you know. So
yeah, I think it's a really interesting time for like our generation of women coming into middle age, and what being child free might mean, or what even being a parent and a creator of a business might mean. And I feel like there's so much opportunity for us to do it in a way that works for us. For maybe the first time in, like, certainly my family's lineage of women.
And we're figuring that out as we go. So we should acknowledge that there's no blueprint for this, and we're doing this as we go. And if we can hold that we are finding the way forward. What's that David Whyte poem? Like, you make the way by walking, you know. Wayfinder, there is no way. You make the way by walking, and it's like so like, of course, it's a bit unknown and scary and frightening, and yet we don't have to do it alone either. Like, there are communities of women, this one being one of them, that are here to support that journey and discuss. So
yeah. There's a just a little, it's just a little joke has just occurred to me. So you would have worked with Yes and a lot with Liz. Yeah. So I just came back from an artist residency in Zurich with a comedy partner, a woman called Katie Shute, who is an amazing improviser and is in the same company as Liz Peters, actually. We were having a joke because in improvisation, in the world of improvisation, everything is about yes and, yes and, yes and. And we started playing this game of no. and like a kind of comedy toddler no, and that being extremely funny and very it's just so antisocial. It's one of the most antisocial things you can do. And I think one of the gifts of perimenopause and menopause, certainly that I've encountered, is that my no has just got a lot simpler and a lot clearer. It's just like, no, actually just no. And I don't feel at all tempted by what used to maybe go, oh yeah, but maybe I might miss out on or whatever. It's just so simple for me now. Just like really just no, thanks.
God. And there's something we can cultivate and learn from that. Like, we don't have to wait to menopause to be supported. We can actually, cultivate that. And I just a bit more like just no in our work, well, in all of our lives, but as well, like just having that simple like no, that something that we can really support us. So yeah,
that's nice. Yeah, I wish I was younger.
I know. Yeah, well, I have very good mentors and women paving the way ahead of me, so I feel very grateful for that. So, gosh, we're gonna have to stop. I'm sorry. No more talking. Thank you so much for such a rich, gorgeous conversation, Rachel. I just, let's keep having them evermore. And I really am looking forward to your session in the course and ongoing collaboration. And and thank you to everyone who watched live. There's about 10 people watching live, Rachel, so that's lovely. And for all your comments and people saying they love this conversation so much, lots and lots of resonance in the chat. I'm not sure if you're in this group. I'll add you so that you can just see the.
Yeah, that'd be lovely. Yeah, thanks, Erica, and thank you so much for having me.
Oh yeah, beautiful. And anyone with any questions about the course, feel free to drop them in, and I'm having one-to-one conversations with people if you'd like to book a call. And hope you enjoyed this conversation. And I'm talking to Roma tomorrow, who is a karate sensei and a woman in a man's world, and she's going to be talking about how when women re-own the ability to occupy space in their bodies, how they can begin to take their place, find their own sense of safety, and really come into their potency and what they have to offer. So yeah,
Roma's brilliant.
Oh, she's so good.
In for a treat.
So thank you, Rachel.
And you're welcome.
And see you tomorrow in here. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
We're not live yet. End broadcast. Okay, bye.